Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Friday, August 2nd. Hopefully, everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 344 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me here on a Friday pod, day number 8 of New York Jets training camp 2024 just wrapped up a little while ago, and we've got a lot to discuss from today's practice. We will break it all down, and tomorrow is the green and white scrimmage, so you'll obviously have a lot more takeaways from that as well for the New York Jets as training camp officially hits about a week and a half into things here in the summer. And the first practice for the New York Jets open to the media here in August. So football is getting closer and closer as each day goes by. Now, before we break down today's practice and give you my biggest takeaways here on the pod, let me tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an app that gathers tickets from all over the internet and puts them into one spot to make it easier for you, the buyer. What makes SeatGeek so great is they rate each ticket on a scale from 0 to 10, so you know what type of deal you are getting, and you know if you are spending the right price or not on your ticket. Plus, my viewers, click the link in the description down below. That'll take you to download the SeatGeek app. Use promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off your purchase. Once again, that is promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off. Tickets for anything, not just sports, not just football, plays, concerts, shows, you name it. If you can buy a ticket for an event, SeatGeek has it. Promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off. You also see the hat I'm wearing right now. You want to get the hat I'm wearing right now or any of the hats that Aaron Rodgers wears, Shane Gillis, Shohei Ohtani, Tyler Conklin, you name it. Plenty of athletes and celebrities rock the Huga House vintage-inspired hats. Click the Huga House link in the description down below to take you to the Huga House store, and at checkout, use promo code BUBS for 15% off any purchase at Huga House. Get yourself some swag, and at checkout, promo code BUBS for 15% off. And get yourself some of the same swag that I'm wearing, and more importantly, let's be honest here, it's QB1, Aaron Rodgers, wearing the Huga House apparel all the time. Now, quickly before we begin here, I just want to give you a quick channel update. Tomorrow, I will actually be going on vacation for a week. So we'll have episodes up Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Those will be our New York Jets player previews. Have pre-recorded all of those. Those will all be up throughout the rest of next week. Episode 7, 8, and 9 of the New York Jets player preview series. Those will be up every Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning next week. I can't guarantee that I'm going to have daily uploads up after each practice. I will try my best. I will try my best to get a preseason preview episode out before the August 10th preseason game against the Commanders. I will have a preseason recap, so I will have that up for sure after that game. I will also try and give you my takeaways from joint practice, the joint practice against the Commanders as well on Thursday. So I will try my best, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to get content up every single day. But you will have those episodes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, plus anything else that I find the time to get uploaded as well. So just wanted to give you an update if the content over the next week is not as frequent, but the week after that and the rest of the preseason and all the regular season, we will have content up here on the show all the time. So just wanted to give you kind of an update on that if the content is not as daily as it's been so far through the first week and a half here of camp. But either way, before that even happens, we got to break down day number 8 of New York Jets training camp after an off day yesterday. The New York Jets were back at it today. No pads, so kind of a disclaimer or a little bit of a announcement to make there. No pads, so take that as you will. It's been padded practices. The Jets are kind of, the last couple days have been going a little easier. You had Wednesday was primarily, or Tuesday rather. No, yeah, Wednesday rather. I'm getting my days mixed up. Wednesday was after Monday, Tuesday padded practice. Of course, Tuesday was open to the public. Wednesday was no pads, or was just red zone, rather. Yesterday, a day off. Today, no pads. So the last 3 days, just red zone drills Wednesday. Thursday, no practice. And then today, there was no pad. So kind of easing into things before the green and white scrimmage tomorrow, which will be more of a game-like atmosphere, refs there, kickoffs, all that stuff, more of an intense game-like scenario. Practice here, things will really start to ramp up, of course, with joint practices in each of the next 3 weeks, Washington, Carolina, and the Giants, and of course your 3 preseason games starting up a week from tomorrow. So today was a very successful day again for the offense. Despite no pads on, still got a lot of takeaways. Rodgers, after throwing 6 touchdowns on Wednesday, after a day off yesterday, came out there today and was dominating once again. And here we are. This is why you do not panic to 2 practices in July. Monday, Tuesday, the offense was pretty poor. There's no other way around it. And everybody started to panic. You get all these people in the national media saying, oh, look, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, they're arguing. They're yelling at each other. This isn't going to work. The locker room is fracturing off of 2 practices in July. And here we are, the last 2 practices for the New York Jets. According to my calculations and all the beat reporters and all that stuff, Rodgers has thrown 11 touchdown passes. Now, I get it, right? Just red zone drills on Wednesday. Today was no pads. So the offense, of course, has had to step ahead. But you can't take away what Aaron Rodgers has done over these last 2 practices after it felt like the Jets season was over to some people because the offense had 2 bad days. Oh, no. 2 bad days in training camp. Season's over. So Aaron Rodgers and the Jets came out, were very good today on the offense. Offense won the day. 5 touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers. Let's break them down. Garrett Wilson found him during red zone drills. Found Garrett Wilson in the back of the end zone. Then got the ball to Tyler Conklin. Conklin made a really, really nice play over Jarek Bernard-Converse, who we'll actually discuss here a little bit later on. He had a very good practice today and is really performing pretty well ever since making the full-time switch from safety to full-time corner for the New York Jets here. That was also in the red zone. Conklin over Jarek Bernard-Converse for a touchdown. That was Rodgers' second of the day. And then a little while later, he got it back to Tyler Conklin. Rodgers with a hard count drew a player offsides. Don't know who he drew offsides, but got a man to jump up front. Offsides, free play, and Rodgers uncorks a deep ball 25 to 30 yards downfield and wasn't even looking. So kind of just put a nice little touch on it, 30 yards downfield, no look pass, like it's nothing, gets a guy to jump off sides, free play, finds Tyler Conklin for a touchdown. So those are his 3 scores there. Spreading the ball around. I mean, again, we talk about Tyler Conklin is going to have such a huge year with Aaron Rodgers. We saw this last year in camp where he was able to get Conklin the ball, especially in the red zone, which we saw today, right? During red zone, in the red zone, was able to get Conklin the ball. Your physical tight end, cross the middle. You want him, making those big plays in those short down and distances, inside the 20, inside the 10, red zone, third down, tight ends. That's all reliable. That's where they make their money. You see him getting the ball to Tyler Conklin there, and then you see him drawing guys off sides, throwing it deep, getting Conklin involved too on some of these deep plays. So just finding different ways to get the tight ends the ball. It's great to see Conklin being utilized the way he has been so far in camp. So those were his first 3 touchdowns, and then the next 2 went to Garrett Wilson, and then the 5th touchdown was again to Garrett Wilson in a 2-minute drill. So overall, Garrett Wilson, 3 touchdowns on the day. One of those coming in 2-minute drills, the other one coming inside the red zone. And Conklin had 2 touchdowns. So arguably you can make the case, right? The 3-headed monster for the New York Jets this season in terms of receptions and amount of times they're touching the football, it's probably going to be Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Tyler Conklin are probably going to touch the football, if they stay healthy, the most. And as long as Aaron Rodgers is playing to the level that we all know he can play at, those guys are going to touch the football the most. Well, 5 of Rodgers' touchdowns, 2 of those 3 players were getting involved, and Rodgers was actually able to get Breece involved today a couple times. One of those was a really nice catch by Breece Hall. Not a touchdown, but was able to get those involved. Rodgers also had some completions that weren't touchdowns to Jeremy Ruckert, Allen Lazard. We just talked about it, Breece Hall. And he was also able to get Garrett Wilson and Tyler Conklin involved on the plays that weren't touchdowns. So a very good day for Aaron Rodgers. Back-to-back good practices for him. After a couple rough practices in a row, Rodgers and this offense have kind of figured things out, and that's a good thing to see. And you open up August here with a couple strong practices. Or really the first August practice was strong here for the offense. Tyrod Taylor also found a man in the back of the end zone, Jason Brownlee, who we'll get to here a little bit. Want to break him down a little bit more. He's had a really solid camp so far, especially recently. The last 3-4 practices, he's been really, really productive. So we'll get to him, but even Tyrod slinging it a little bit. I'll tell you what, it's nice. Of course, Rodgers, you expect these performances out of him, but it's finally nice as a Jets fan to look at the backup quarterback and look at the second team offense and see it actually function. I mean, how many, even last year, we don't even have to go back far to, previous years and all the bad quarterback play. You just look at last year, right? Rodgers would go off the field and the offense wouldn't function. Zach would have his normal Zach moments where there's times where he goes through his progressions and makes a couple plays here and there, but they were so far few and in between. Like they didn't come very often. For Tyrod, it's consistent. He's consistent. No, he's not going to light things up. No, he's not Aaron Rodgers, but he's a veteran. He's consistent. I mean, there's a couple teams that probably would start Tyrod under center. And a guy that you can trust again. Rodgers goes down, twists an ankle, misses 2 weeks. I don't know, hits his finger on a defender's helmet and jams his finger or whatever, needs to miss 2 weeks. A short week, Thursday game, short week, whatever. Can't play. You can trust Tyrod to go out there and go 1-1. And you're also seeing, too, I think this is why we're also seeing a lot of these depth guys step up. Like you're seeing a guy like Brownlee have a good camp. You're seeing some of these second teamers have really good camps because you actually have a quarterback throwing to the second team that's capable of playing in an NFL game. The Jets didn't have that last year at all. They didn't have that as starting. I mean, geez, Tim Boyle started games. So it's just another reminder how far we've come from a quarterback perspective here during this year's training camp. Peasley also had a couple good throws today. That is your daily summer of Andrew Peasley update. Slinging it, camp arm. He'll get out there in about a week from now at MetLife Stadium. Peasley, 1:00 game. We'll be out there slinging it for the New York Jets against the Commanders. So he'll eat up a lot of those reps, which is good. Look, I don't know what will happen Peasley in the future. He might be a practice squad guy for the Jets. Who knows? But this is a good opportunity for him. I mean, he's sitting in a quarterback room that includes Tyrod Taylor and Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to get just a ton of preseason game looks. So camp arm Peasley looking pretty good today as well. Now on to the more relevant stuff other than talking about Andrew Peasley. Running backs, Breece, like I said, had a nice catch. Did fumble today. Zaire Barnes forced it. We'll talk more about that later. And it just, too, I mentioned this yesterday. I didn't see a ton on Braylon Allen. Didn't see a ton of stuff from Breece. Again, with no pads on, it's really tough to tell what the running backs are doing with no pads on because there really is no physicality. They run up the middle, and it's kind of two-hand touch. At least tackle, at least with pads on, you can kind of see them, lower their shoulder, actually lower their shoulder, get downhill a little bit. You can actually see guys wrap up while they don't bring each other to the ground. You can see them wrap up. You can get a better gauge of how long, how short, what these runs are actually doing. So with no pads on, it's kind of tough to gauge the running backs, which is why it's kind of understandable that we didn't get a ton of running back updates today. It also felt like it was a pass heavy day for the Jets, but just off of what I talked about yesterday with Tariq Cohen retiring, surprising news, of course, but it opens up the door. And these practices is a big month now for Izzy. It opens up a door for Izzy. Personally, to me, I know some Jets fans still felt Izzy was going to make this roster. To me, I did not. I thought Tariq Cohen had the inside track, especially because of his special teams ability. You saw him getting a lot of punt and kick returning reps. Izzy wasn't back there. The Jets valued that. And I think if Tariq Cohen ended up not retiring, I think he would have made this roster. Also a veteran in that room, a different voice over Izzy personally. But now that Izzy, it seems like it's his job to lose now. Valladay's had a couple good days. He's flashed a couple times. The Tuesday practice I was at, he had a couple really nice runs during drive the field drills, but I still think it's now Izzy's job to lose, and Izzy's kind of been giving a second life in a way with the New York Jets here with Tariq Cohen, in my eyes. I know some people thought Izzy was making the roster all in all, or either way, but I didn't see that. But either way, two guys to continue to watch for here the rest of camp. Running back number 4 spot. Talked already a lot about the receivers. Again, Garrett, 3 touchdowns today. All of those coming from Rodgers, of course. Brownlee, I want to talk about him. He did have one play today where he went up one-on-one, probably could have made the play, but he ended up dropping it. You could tell he was frustrated. It was a really nice play from Peasley, really nice throw, dropped it. But he had the touchdown from Tyrod. He also had a really, really nice diving catch today as well at practice. So Jason Brownlee, to me, was a guy that it felt like the first 3 days of practice, you didn't hear a lot from him. It was a lot of, Malik Taylor and guys like that that were impressing. But it feels like from Saturday and then Monday, Tuesday, even the 2 days where the offense struggled, Brownlee's been really productive. Brownlee slowly, little by little here, is putting together a really, really nice camp of course, with the wide receiver depth there. It feels like, in a way, he's kind of like for a couple practices there, it felt like Malik Taylor was kind of the training camp darling a little bit. And now Brownlee has stepped up and has shown a lot of really good things. He even got to the point, too, where at Tuesday's practice during drive the field period, Rodgers, he was actually getting first team reps. So Brownlee, I feel like, has put together a really strong under the radar camp. And it feels like for like 4 practices in a row here, he's made some really nice plays. So wide receiver depth wise, Brownlee, showing some progress, showing some development here. In what has been overall, I feel like a strong camp 8 days in. Again, small sample size, 8 days in, and he'll get a lot of looks in the preseason games, which will be important in joint practices as well. But so far, off of the sample size we have, I've been pretty impressed with what Brownlee has done, especially really this week, it feels. As for tight ends, talked about Conklin's 2 touchdowns. He did have a fumble as well. The linebackers and the safeties were punching balls out today, but Conklin, 2 touchdowns, both from Rodgers, of course. Mentioned him. He's going to be a big threat. Finding him in the red zone. Just Conklin's stock, you're going to want to invest in his stock now while you can. And Ruckert had a couple nice receptions today as well, as he continues what has been a very strong camp and arguably one of the better players in camp. I've been really, really impressed with what I've seen from Ruckert. This was a big camp for him. And as I've said many times already today, right, joint practices, the preseason games coming up, joint practice in less than a week next Thursday. You got the preseason game a week from tomorrow. So little by little here, of course, the green and white scrimmage tomorrow, which will be more of an in-game environment, more physicality, actually like an in-game scenario. So you'll get a lot of good takeaways from that off of just team drills. Big opportunity for Rucker to continue to produce, continue to develop. I think if you're a Jets fan, you've got to have a lot of confidence in this tight end room after what you've seen so far. We know what Conklin is, but for Rucker, right, 2 years so far, hasn't done a whole lot. So far has looked really good. One of the biggest stories today was on the offensive line. It is August 2nd, and the New York Jets have their starting 5 offensive line out there on the field. Morgan Moses returned to practice today, coming off the torn pec. Is kind of similar to ABT, kind of on a pitch count, or I guess if that's what you want to consider it, not practicing fully just yet. Was out there today in team drills. First time he was in team drills all camp so far. So Saleh mentioned it on Saturday. I believe it was Saturday. Last Saturday, he said they'll be back next week. Come to find out, he was correct. Moses back today. Good to see him back out there. And the New York Jets starting 5. From left to right of Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, AVT, and Morgan Moses was out there for the first time today. Full strength in practice. And it's only August 2nd. The New York Jets open up their season September 9th. So a little over a month out from the season still starting. And the Jets already have their starting 5 practicing together in camp, which is huge. And when you compare that to what last year was, it's completely night and day. Last year, the Jets didn't have their starting five combination set literally until a week before Buffalo. Literally. I mean, they had, the Giants game, they still had no clue. They rolled Aaron Rodgers out there in that Giants game, in the preseason game, with not even their full strength offensive line. If you remember during the joint practices where I was in attendance for the Tampa joint practice last year, the offensive line was a train wreck. So many moving pieces, no chemistry being built. You still didn't have your starting five out there. There was depth pieces starting and running with the ones. It was a mess. It's such a breath of fresh air to see before preseason, before joint practices even begin. Moses out there, the starting five out there. And it goes a really long way. All the chemistry that will be able to be built here over the next month. Such a complete 180 from what the Jets were trying to put together last year, whatever the heck they were trying to do with their offensive line during camp last year. So great to see Morgan Moses out there. And this is kind of your daily Joe Tippmann snap update. Had a couple high snaps today. Him and Rodgers continue to work together with it on the side before practice. There's always one. They're getting better, but it feels like every day, and it feels like this is going to be the case for a little bit now, because he's kind of got the Yipman, I guess, if that's what you want to call him. It feels like every day there's at least 1 to 2 snaps that just get away from him, where Rodgers has to jump up and grab it with one hand and bring it down. He's working through it. He's got time. He's got over a month here to figure it out. Ideally, you'd like to see it get cleaned up, after these joint practices and stuff like that, where, you're going to be able to, go against other competition. Joint practices, of course, are very valuable. You would like to see them start to get cleaned up when those begin, but we'll see. It's something he's working through. He's struggling, but, hopefully something that gets cleaned up soon. But all in all, positives from the offensive line, considering all 5 guys are out there. As for the defense, like I said, offense won the day, but it was a pretty strong day for the defense. Couple strong performances from the defense overall. Michael Clemens on the first play of practice blew up a run against Brees. So Clemens running with the ones to open up practice. We've seen him and McDonald really, it feels like, split those reps, which I still find interesting. I feel like McDonald probably would benefit the most from running with the first team while Hassan Reddick is still holding out. But Clemens has had a couple plays here and there, including the run stuff today against Brees. Quinnen had a sack on Aaron Rodgers, or what would be a sack. So that's, I think, 2 this week. He had a what would be sack on Rodgers on Tuesday. He had another one today. Not that should be any surprise. It's Quinnen Williams. He's one of the elite pass rushers in football. But those were mainly your biggest takeaways up front on the defensive line. As for the linebackers, very strong day for them, even though the offense performed really well. Zaire Barnes, some of the depth guys here. Zaire Barnes forced a fumble against Brees. Jamian Sherwood blew up a run play. Chaz Surratt had a couple nice plays today, showing off his speed. So 3 of your depth linebackers, right? Your third linebacker in Sherwood, who I feel has put together a really nice camp, and your kind of 4th and 5th linebacker in Chaz Surratt and Zaire Barnes. It's possible. We'll see what the Jets do there at linebacker, but if they do hold on to 4, then it's possible. I mean, you're going to have to make a decision between Surratt and Barnes. You've also got Sammy Guavon, who has made a couple plays here and there. It's interesting. Before practice, him and Rodgers are always talking a lot. It's weird. Your like 6th linebacker talking with Aaron Rodgers is always was kind of strange to me. But anyway, those are 2. They always during warmups, they're always talking to each other. Sammy Guavon and Aaron Rodgers, the most random combination you can think of. But here we are. Either way, though, it was a good day for the depth. Zaire Barnes, Jamian Sherwood, 2 of your depth linebackers, 2 of your younger linebackers. And, of course, Chaz Surratt, also a younger linebacker. Quincy Williams also had a pass breakup on Brees Hall. So the Williams brothers today both are making a couple plays. Quinnen with the sack, Quincy with the pass breakup. And, with pads on, I know today wasn't pads. They took, obviously, no pads today. But with pads on, you get a better idea of what the linebackers are doing because you can kind of see they're actually able to wrap up a little bit, of course. You can kind of see more of the tackles for loss, them getting with no pads on. It's kind of tough for a linebacker, kind of gauge what a linebacker's doing or how they're doing. And now, since I know today wasn't any pads, but since the pads have come on, you've started to see more out of these linebackers. Not that you need to see a whole lot of the linebackers because CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams have quickly become one of the best linebacker duos in the NFL. But for the depth guys, it's good to see some of these performances. As for the secondary, the cornerbacks and safeties, strong day for Jarek Bernard-Converse. Really, really strong day. And we got to give JBC some credit. This was a guy that, of course, was a 6th-round pick last year, could play safety, could play corner, only appeared in 8 games, dealt with injury, of course, so didn't have many opportunities there with the injury, didn't really do anything at all in camp because he was hurt. So kind of development in year 1, it was kind of just a forgotten year for Jarek Bernard-Converse out of LSU. We know what he could do playing safety and playing corner. He made the transition full-time here before camp to play corner and has shown a lot of really good things. And today was excellent. Garrett Wilson did win a battle against him, but he also won a battle against Garrett Wilson. I mean, that's Jarek Bernard-Converse going one-on-one and giving Garrett Wilson a little bit of trouble at times is very impressive for the 6th-round pick who just made the full-time move to cornerback. So JBC, little by little here, has put together a really, really nice camp after Saleh announced that he would be a full-time corner as opposed to a safety and kind of potentially being a hybrid transitioning between the two. Him and Isaiah Oliver essentially changed places. JBC went from safety to corner. Oliver, coming over from San Francisco, went to corner to safety. And haven't seen a ton from Oliver, but JBC has really fit in nicely in this new role as a depth piece. A lot of the depth corners, really. You look at JBC, he's been solid. Quantez Stiggers, of course, has shown you a lot. So definitely some positives there from the cornerback room depth-wise, other than, of course, the starters. And then Ashton Davis always has a knack for the ball. Last year, the ball always seemed to find him on defense, which was great. Today had a forced fumble against Conklin, and he also had a sack. So a strong day for Ashton Davis, probably his best practice so far of the summer. Now, a couple roster updates. The New York Jets yesterday worked out. Well, first of all, Sauce missed practice today. Saleh says it was personal reasons and he was excused. So it doesn't seem like anything major there. We'll see if he's back tomorrow. Other roster updates. The Jets made a couple roster moves. They also worked out a couple receivers. So they signed wide receiver Isaiah Winstead, Brandon Smith, and a corner, Trey Swilling. So those were the 3 signings they made. They, of course, placed Tariq Cohen on the retirement reserve, whatever it's called, list, as he officially retired. And then they released a tight end and a receiver. They released Kevin Fullish, a tight end, and then they released Marcus Riley, a wide receiver. So it seems like with Anthony Fursker coming in was to replace Nick Baldwin. They also get rid of a tight end and get rid of Marcus Riley, who was a UDFA. They also worked out a couple players. Now, Isaiah Winstead, they did work out, and they signed him. So he's on the roster for camp. Other than that, though, they did work out. Braven Allen, Robert Cooper, Sam Pinckney, and the biggest name on this list is Jarvis Landry. Now, Jarvis Landry right now is a free agent, of course. That's why he's working out. I don't know if the Jets will bring him in. It's interesting because they signed 2 receivers today. Brandon Smith was not on the workout list. Isaiah Winstead was. I don't know if they will still sign Landry, even though they signed 2 receivers today, but it's something to keep an eye on. Look, obviously out of those, the 5 or whatever, 6 receivers, 5 receivers I just named, Landry's the biggest name on that list. Been in the league since 2014, former 2nd-round pick. Of course, his days in Miami had a little bit of success with Cleveland. Has spent last year didn't even play, but 2022 spent with New Orleans. I don't think the Jets will sign him, but look, if they sign Jarvis Landry, it's certainly an interesting name. He's a whole lot bigger name than Isaiah Winstead and Brandon Smith, but I don't know really how much of a role Landry would play here in terms of maybe depth, a veteran. But a guy that name, a guy with previous NFL success, even though he has dealt with injuries that have sidelined him a lot over the last couple seasons, and he's much older. He is not the Miami Dolphins Jarvis Landry, not even the, 3 productive years he had in Cleveland. He's nowhere near that. He is far gone from that, but it's an interesting name. We'll see if the Jets do it. We'll see if they bring him in, but definitely interesting to see that he ended up working out. So that's that for the roster updates, and that's pretty much all for day 8 of New York Jets training camp. Tomorrow will be the green and white scrimmage, so you'll get a lot of really, really good takeaways from that. Of course, based off of real game environment, a little bit more physicality, a lot more reps. Instead of just running, drive the field drills and team drills and stuff like that, it's legitimately like a scrimmage in-game environment. So, so far you've gotten a lot of good takeaways from training camp, but now after kind of his first week, Hall of Fame game on last night, now things start to get a little bit more exciting. You've got joint practice next week against the Commanders. Then you've got your preseason game. You've got the green and white scrimmage tomorrow. The week after that, you've got another joint practice against Carolina, preseason game. And then you've got, after that, joint practice against the Giants, preseason game to wrap things up. So August here, little by little, quickly here, we're going to get a lot of really good chances to see what this Jets teams look like against other teams, and especially some of this depth, start to see some of these roster competitions really come into full gear here as guys start to hit other players, which will be very important come joint practice. Joint practice is very valuable. Of course, a lot of coaches view joint practices as better sometimes to evaluate things and better reps wise than actual preseason games. So those, of course, are important. But anyway, that'll do it for the podcast here today. As always, for those of you on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. We will see you soon. And until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.